Following total atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we here at Vault Boys WV will take you on an oral tour of the beautiful state of West Virginia. There's no other place to be better prepared for the impending fallout. Now we go live to our team of experts.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Vault Boys West Virginia podcast. I am your resident Appalachian scribe, Dave Chaffins, and joining me is Mr. Tourism himself, Austin O'Connor. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Had a good week.
I'm just glad to be here.
No dental issues. I can feel all of my face today. Did a little trip down to Bluefield this weekend.
Oh, I'm jealous. I was supposed to go to Bluefield this weekend.
Oh, well.
Could have been a party down there.
Yeah, my sister's nephew had that would be my nephew. My sister's kid had a birthday party that we went to, and it was delightful. It was nice because it was really cool in Bluefield as compared to in Charleston, where it's like
a different world.
It's a very different world.
Yes.
I thought that moving north it would be colder, but turns out I was just going down the mountain and it's hotter.
You moved about 3 miles south of the surface of the sun.
If I ever wanted to move to Savannah or like New Orleans or something, I've been to New Orleans, and honestly, it's just more humidity than Charleston, same temp. And it's just there in New Orleans, you walk out and your glasses get covered in that film of fog as you roll out.
I'm going to be going to Phoenix next month. I have been warned that nothing I can do can prepare me for how hot Phoenix in August is going to be. So I am currently in the process of trying to find some new clothes that might be, because it's for work. So I want to stay, business casual.
What's your short game? Like
my short, I've got maybe 3 pairs that are professional enough to wear.
See, I really like the real short ones because I've got these long legs, and I sit on the stationary bike every day, and do my little thing. And so I've got to show off what I've got.
You got to flaunt it.
I don't have much else, but I do have that.
My legs are too pale. I'm just too pale.
Well, mine are
general.
too pale anyways. Yeah.
And
I'm a vampire. Stephanie Meyer wrote novels about me. All right, Austin, let's get into our next segment, which is a new segment, which is called Community Shoutouts. And so this week, we really want to thank you guys for listening to our first episode. It was really nice success, really great to get it out there and talk to you guys about it. But we wanted to kind of go back over our social media and shout out some people that we've been talking to. So on Twitter particularly, I want to shout out Kevin Holick for sending us some really nice artwork. That was really awesome. Thanks, man. And if we need any more artwork, we'll be in touch with you. Let's see. I'm going to pronounce this, I hope correctly. Anani Misfit Toys.
What a name.
At Thud Rogers and at DC Deacon. Have all been talking to us on Twitter. We really appreciate your comments back to us. We read them all. We see them all. We like talking to you. Also, this week, I've set up an Instagram and a Facebook. So Instagram actually will have different content than Twitter. It'll be along the same lines, and it'll be West Virginia facts, different pictures, different stuff. I'm trying to do a story every, do we record this? Yeah, it's a Wednesday. I'm trying to do a story every Wednesday that gets a little bit of background to get you in the mindset of what we're thinking on the show. And our Facebook page is mainly to post links to the episode because I talked to my mother this weekend, and the only way that she listens to podcasts is through Facebook. And I said, so what app did you use? And she said, Facebook. I was like, but our podcast is not on Facebook. She said, but I streamed it all the way on a car ride. I was like, well, that probably was a lot of data.
Man,
so
shout out to Mrs. Chaffins.
Yeah,
she is.
Love her to death.
I would say one of my grandmother's favorite people.
Well, your grandmother is probably one of her favorite people.
It's a mutual. I mean, I love it.
I like it.
2 of the greatest women in the world.
A shout out to my mom. I love you, Mom. All right. Also, I'm on Reddit. It's just me right now, and I'm user Vault Boys WV Dave. And so I've been going through a bunch of the different Fallout communities, been commenting and looking at different stuff, trying to keep up to date. Right now, my favorite is it's smaller than the major r/Fallouts r/FO76, which I particularly like and frequent and comment on different stuff. I want to shout out 2 things I saw this week that I liked. Was the user Undernear commented on a topic about NPCs in 76 and reminded me that Old World Blues was a thing. And in Old World Blues, which was a DLC for the previous Fallout New Vegas, there were no actual human NPCs in that game, and it was all robots and terminals and angry ghouls and different stuff. So I'd forgotten that they had done it with that. And if I remember, it was one of the... I loved it because it had one of the voice actors for Venture Brothers, which I really like, as one of the brainy robots that was in the think tank, I think it was called. Also want to shout out user The Legendary Square that reminded me that they have Ron Perlman in a voice booth cranking out lines for all the Fallout games. And so I think in the Danny O'Dwyer documentary, they were talking about how Ron has to sit down and crank out these different lines and different stuff. And I just picture Ron Perlman as a very angry dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was imagining him going, as you exit from Vault 1, and do it again, Ron, as you exit from Vault
Just
2
over and over.
and Vault 3 as you go along. So, you see anything good in the community, Austin?
I've been enjoying the feedback and the support, and it's been
We really appreciate it.
It's been cool to see people, enjoying what we're doing as much as we enjoy doing it, and I hope that trend continues on.
Yeah. So let me talk about a little bit what we're doing. We're 2 West Virginia experts with unique backgrounds in the state. Each week we come at you with a big topic based on locations, stories, and history within West Virginia. That is featured or likely to be featured in Fallout 76. We also have Fallout 76 news, whether it's fresh off the week or maybe something that we already know that hasn't been covered on this show. We will share history and facts that are referenced, as well as personal stories and impressions. If you like the show, tell your friends. That's the key. Follow us on Twitter at VaultBoysWV and email us your questions at vaultboyswv@gmail.com. That's VaultBoysWV@gmail.com. From holler to highway, we'll have you covered 6 ways to Sunday. Now we take you to the news. Austin, we have just a little bit of news this week that I want to talk to you about. And then if we have time, maybe we'll get into a different subject.
Okay.
So The Guardian recently did an interview with Todd Howard that I want to talk about. So this is from Keza McDonald. I hope I'm saying that right, from The Guardian. So in a recent interview with Fallout 76 creative director Todd Howard, he was asked if Fallout 76 was like other survival games, like Rust and... what's another survival game? I guess Daisy. Yeah, the different stuff like that. But Todd Howard said, end quote, "We avoid the word survival because people's minds immediately go to Daisy and Rust, there they are, and certain other games. And those comparisons are not really accurate for what we're doing. If you think about survival modes we've made in Fallout 4, it has that vibe. Fallout 76, although it's an online game, when I play it, I mostly still play it solo. We like those experiences as much as our fans do." So have you played any other survival games like that or experienced anything like that?
I was trying to think. I've obviously I've seen them. I've maybe tried them out, but I've never really sat down and played one through, I don't think. I tried survival mode on Fallout a few times, and then... I personally am not the biggest fan of it because I'm just too forgetful and I end up getting myself just not in a good spot. But I mean, it's interesting. I think it's going to be cool to see what route they go because they obviously, like he said, they're going to have people. First impression, they're not happy about it. They're very skeptical of it. So I think they're going to have to go at this the right way. So I'm sure.
I think it'll be custom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if it'll be, optional. Like you can set it to where in other Fallout games you can just,
right.
Not
So
have
the
to worry
survival
about it.
mode for 4 is a lot more in depth, and they had mentioned that they were kind of reining that back in to make the less annoying things go away and more to promote the stuff that they like. And so I know that food and water, I think, are still a thing in Fallout 76 that I saw on just UI pictures in the Danny O'Dwyer documentary that he did, which I've watched probably like 20
Several
times.
times, yeah.
Just to get some information for the podcast as well.
Pick
as
something
just for
else new
sheer
up
enjoyment.
every time.
Right, yeah. Which is really great. If you haven't checked that out, please go check that out and support him. He's it's on YouTube and it's at No Clip. It's his documentary series that he did. But I like the survival mode for Fallout 4. It's a little hardcore. I've enabled it to essentially save wherever because I don't I need to go do stuff on the fly. Like I need to go pet my dog or take a sip of my drink or maybe I get distracted by something, and then if I quit out of it, it'll be the last save at my bed. So or at least when I last slept in that game. So I've been going back and enabled a mod that allows you just to kind of save whenever you want. And
That's handy.
Yeah, it is. And it helps out that mode a whole lot. So that's just a little piece of news that we have this week. But I wanted to talk to you about something a little bit bigger topic when it comes to the game itself that you all probably already know that we're going to cover again. And it's from that Danny O'Dwyer documentary as well. So while Fallout 76 is an online game, Bethesda Studios has stated that they plan on implementing enemy AI so that you are not just fighting other players online. These enemies include irradiated wildlife, giant genetically mutated humans, otherwise known as super mutants, robots, and humans exposed to so much radiation that their bodies and minds have deteriorated, which are ghouls. In the game, we call them ghouls, of course, but they have chosen to exclude human bandits and raiders from the game in order to make the interaction with other humans be specific to the online function. So if you're shooting a shot, you're not suspecting, oh, that's another. Is that another human or is that a raider?
Right.
It's a human.
But cool. You want to be a raider, you can be a raider.
You can be that.
You want to be a good guy, you can be a good guy. It's going to be cool to see what people decide to do with their character.
So to replace the gun-wielding enemies, they've chosen to create a new faction of intelligent ghouls. These ghouls are not quite as mentally deteriorated as their counterparts and are able to utilize weapons, and they are called the Scorched. So what do you think about AI as far as non-player characters, monsters, super mutants, different stuff when it comes to Fallout 76?
I'm excited just because I think that, from 3 to New Vegas to 4, it seems like they've evolved these creatures that, are basically just trying to destroy you and everything else. So I think it's going to be cool to see what they can do with West Virginia and a more mountainous. Even in real life here, there are some kind of creepy, weird creatures in the woods that you really don't want to stumble upon. So to add radiation and mutation to that, I think that's going to be pretty interesting because, I'm sure there's going to be the classics that, were in the other games. But right. I'm excited to see what kind of new creatures they're going to throw at us with a different environment, a different region.
The thing that I'm most interested in is their incorporation of ghouls this time around. Yeah. And how they're making them somewhat intelligent. And so to me, it's particularly creepy because they're not deteriorated enough so that they're feral. So in other games, they're like very, very fast zombies. Or they haven't deteriorated their brains at all and they're functioning humans. But it seems like in this one, they're trying to make them like that in between. And so to me, that's like really creepy as they're attacking you. Do they know, remember a few English words? They'd be like, die.
Yeah, something just weird. You're in the middle of the woods at night and you hear this faint just whisper out of the trees, and here it comes after you.
If something spoke to you in a complete thought in a zombie voice, that was a little bit broken, that would be really creepy. So I'm interested. I'm interested in what they're going to do with them and they said that they're an enemy faction within the game and what exactly they've taken over and how they function.
Right. I think that's a pretty cool idea because it always has intrigued me, the line between, you run into one that's manning a bar and can have a full conversation with you, or you're in the metro and here come 4 of them running like crazy people at you, just flailing their arms everywhere.
Right.
Like where does that line lie?
It's essentially the quote unquote racial issue that they've fabricated for the universe. And so a lot of people don't like having ghouls in certain areas. And so some towns will expel them entirely. Other towns are more open to it, and some towns are just for ghouls that we've seen in different Fallout franchises. And so with these, where it's like so close to when that nuclear war has already happened, it's like, what are your interactions with them going to be?
I mean, is it possibly that these are the beginnings of the feral ghouls? That they maybe at some point they all were still kind of there, but not
everything
fully
has a
there.
half-life, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think like what you said about the whole racial thing, it's like I was playing Fallout 3 the other day, and I think you go into, is it Moriarty's, or I think in Megaton, is that the name of the bar that you go to? And there's a ghoul running the bar. And when you like talk to him, he's like, "What? You don't want to hit me or spit in my face?" Like, they have created this whole like racial, like, people hate ghouls in this. I mean, they are seen as lesser than in that sense. So it's really cool to see. I think it's gonna be great to see like what they do with that in terms of like a different type of ghoul we haven't seen before.
So they've invented that racial issue, and then as I'm thinking about it, even in Fallout 4, where they've made the synthetic humans a la Westworld. That was a more like McCarthyism communist thing, where it's like, who do you know that could be a synth? Just like, who do you know that could be a communist? We're going to find out who the communists are. Yeah.
Be a real American. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I always find that interesting when they take their own, I guess, sections on modern political issues and different stuff throughout history in the world. So I'm excited to see what they do with the enemy AI. I'm very glad that they've chosen to keep that, because for me, I'm not going to be, I know personally, I don't feel like attacking other players that often unless it's within like a closed setting or something. That's not going to be my particular shtick. Right. I'm going to try to be a nice guy.
Good karma.
Yeah, good karma, you know. It's hard. It's like, I don't want to come home and be mean to people. You know? It's like, I got to spend all day at work and do that.
Maybe you have a bad day sometimes. You come home.
Maybe I have a bad day. Maybe
that's when you unleash your frustrations in the Fallout
But maybe
world.
I do that on, wildlife or something in this game rather than other people. See,
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that.
I'm not trying to go for a pacifist run here, but something of the sort.
Yeah.
So, Austin, let's go into our big topic for the week. So, Austin, we're going to be covering a wide array of subjects across the Fallout and West Virginia universe that is being created by Bethesda, as well as being created by the United States of America and the citizens of West Virginia.
Yes.
So we will be talking about locations, about different historical events, different landmarks, and different animals. And this week we're actually talking about an animal that was featured in the trailer for Fallout 76, which is, a lot of people are focused on the Mothman or this Mole Man character or the Scorch Beast or something like that within the trailer. But we're going to be talking this week about the Mega Sloth.
Which probably threw a lot of people for a loop.
They were like, what is a sloth?
Why is there a 12-foot sloth in West Virginia?
So, Austin, I spent this week doing a lot of research into this, and what I found blew my mind. And I typed up a bunch of bullet-pointed notes about it, and it all didn't make any sense. So what I've done is I have taken those bullet points and made it into an essay. So I felt like I've been like in high school or college again, writing this like five paragraph essay. It's not 5 paragraphs, a little more than that.
Did you annotate?
I did not annotate it, but I can include references at the end of the podcast for you so you can go look at the other articles.
That's 5 points off.
I'll take the 95. Thank you very much. Although the grammar in here is not very good because it's typed up in a way that I can talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to give you my little essay that I wrote up to get you caught up with mega sloths or giant sloths or something else. And then we can discuss it afterwards. That sound all right, Austin?
Hey, I'm here for it.
All right.
I'm ready.
Let me get in my voice. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do a voice. All right. Like other great and mystical West Virginia tales, this one starts in a little town known as Point Pleasant, West Virginia, with a man named John Stewart. John Stewart was a Revolutionary War hero, veteran, who was famous for having commanded the American forces at the Battle of Point Pleasant in 1774. Later in 1777, continuing his stationing at Point Pleasant, he royally screwed up and slaughtered 4 Shawnee Native Americans who had come from Ohio to make peace with the American forces. The dead included one of the most famous Shawnee chiefs, Hoko-Lesqua, which I completely butchered, I know, but it will be okay. Hoko-Lesqua roughly translates to cornstalk, so this was Chief Cornstalk. And his son, who had been there to parley with the British/American government. Upon hearing the news of the slaughter, Patrick Henry and the Continental Congress tried to denounce the actions of John Stewart, but open conflict with the local Shawnee continued through 1777 to 1778 across West Virginia. After John Stewart fought in a battle at Fort Donnelly in Greenbrier County against the Shawnee, he decided to settle down in the neighboring area. The town of Lewisburg was officially established and appointed John Stewart among their trustees. John continued to be involved in the community, as well as an active supporter of the new American government. One day, while exploring the area around his new home, Stewart stumbled upon a salt cave and found the bones of a particularly unusual animal. He brought it home and wrote about his discovery to one of the most intelligent men he knew, Thomas Jefferson. He didn't see much of a need to have these old bones in his house, so he sent Jefferson the skeletal remains he found. Austin, this jump-started Jefferson's long-time quest to find evidence of a beast long forgotten to further research a theory that was deeply debated at the time: extinction. At first, Jefferson thought he had discovered the remains of a giant and dangerous lion that once roamed America. He was ultimately searching for the remains or evidence of mammoths or mastodons, which he theorized resided in North America at one time. He wrote in his notes, "In fine, the bones exist. Therefore, the animal has existed. The movements of nature are in a never-ending circle." In 1797, Jefferson presented the fossil to the American Philosophical Society, which he named the animal Megalonyx. The Society's minutes record that after this meeting, 2 resolutions were made. 1, to send the memoir to the Publications Committee and to engage an artist to illustrate the bones. The second, to have the bones to be put to good use in the best order for the Society. Later on, in 1803, Jefferson brokered one of the largest land deals in history. He bought the Louisiana Territory for $15 million American dollars. In 2016, this is equivalent to about $573 billion. It's a lot of money. The territory contained 15 present states, as well as parts of 2 Canadian territories. Originally, the U.S. government just wanted to purchase the New Orleans port, but the French government cut the U.S. a deal. Before the purchase was finalized, though, the decision faced opposition from the Federalist Party. They claimed it was unconstitutional to acquire any territory. Jefferson agreed with them and changed the wording of the deal to be an official treaty to which he had complete constitutional power over. He was determined to own this land, and so the treaty was eventually signed. In 1804, Jefferson commissioned the Corps of Discovery Expedition, also known now as the Lewis and Clark Expedition. The purpose of the expedition was to establish trade routes, but Jefferson had other plans. He tasked them with journaling all flora and fauna they encountered, as well as collecting samples. In Jefferson's heart of hearts, he believed that Lewis and Clark would stumble upon a living Megalonyx, proving his growing theory that extinction was holistically wrong. The expedition lasted 2 years, and the team met their goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean. While the expedition had established diplomatic relations with trade routes with several Native American tribes, he was dismayed that the expedition returned little results as to the origin and nature of the Megalonyx. Later on, Jefferson even sent Clark on a special mission to Big Bone Lick in Kentucky to collect bone samples. Clark collected 300 bones, which upon Jefferson's rearrangement became the first full remains discovered of the American mastodon. Jefferson had achieved a great success across a multitude of fields, but the search for the Megalonyx would go on to be the one endeavor he felt he failed to complete. In 1822, the Megalonyx was renamed the Megalonyx jeffersoni. It was found to have been the largest ground-based sloth displaced across America by the Ice Age. The sloth dwelled primarily in the woodlands, and due to the shape of the teeth, they primarily ate leaves, twigs, and possibly nuts. Unlike other ground sloths, this species walked on the flat on the soles of their hind feet and were also able to stand on their hind legs. Jefferson's ground sloth had the widest range of all North American ground sloths. They've recovered around 150 different sites across the United States, as well as Canada and Mexico. At the White Sand Trackway in New Mexico, which has the largest concentration of human and Ice Age megafauna, there has recently been a discovery that early humans may have been tracking a ground sloth on a hunt. This would have made a fierce foe for these early humans, so sneak attacks with several hunters would likely have been the best course of action. The tracks also show evidence of evasive and defensive behavior by the sloth. The species is theorized to have been extinct by the end of the Pleistocene. In 2008, the state of West Virginia ratified a resolution to make the Megalonyx jeffersoni the state fossil of West Virginia. Before Jefferson's death, he wrote to John Adams that he may have been wrong about extinction after all. Here's an excerpt from that letter. Stars, well known, have disappeared. New ones have come into view. Comets, in their incalculable courses, may run foul of suns and planets and require renovation under other laws. Certain races of animals are become extinct, and, were there no restoring power, all existences might extinguish successfully. One by one, until all should be reduced to a shapeless chaos. So irresistible are these evidences of an intelligent and powerful agent, that, of the infinite number of men who have existed through all time, they have believed, in proportion of 1,000,000 at least to unit, in the hypothesis of an eternal pre-existence of a creator, rather than in that of a self-existent universe. In Fallout 76, giant sloths have once again emerged following the nuclear war. Why have they returned? Maybe Jefferson was right in the first place. The movements of nature are in a never-ending circle.
Whew. Jefferson, it sounds to me like he was hitting that hashish pretty heavy there in his later life. Either that or I think he kind of just wrote the first Coldplay song ever by all that stuff he was talking about with the universes.
Talking about the universe and the stars.
He was deep in it, man.
Well, he was a theist. He wasn't necessarily... He was kind of a hipster almost of that time. And and he didn't prescribe to a particular set of ideas. He believed in religion and in Christianity, but I mean, he was a little out there with kind of some of the stuff he was talking about.
It sounded like the sloth was the one that got away for Thomas Jefferson. He was very I feel like that was like his high thoughts that he sent out to Adams, and he was like sitting there in his feelings about this sloth that he could just never really find.
Well, with people that have a lot of success and are very intelligent, there's always the one that got away or the one thing that they couldn't do.
Yeah.
And it's to my opinion that even on Jefferson's deathbed, this was the one that got away.
Some regrets. I can just picture him sitting at Monticello up all night with a candle in the window, just staring out at just the open land and just wondering as Lewis and Clark are on this adventure, he's like, man, I'm going to be so famous. This is going to happen. I'm a genius.
I'm going to discover the ground sloth.
Yeah. He probably had so much confidence that this was going to happen. And I can just picture him just like patting himself on the back already.
Well,
And
it's funny because from my reading, once he got that fossil, he was so excited that he wanted to tell every single one of his friends what he found.
Yeah.
And like shopped around. Guys, look, I found this giant sloth, and I bet you that it's roaming around North America right now. And ha ha ha, all you people in Europe, you think you have cool animals. We've got cool animals. We've got this gigantic, I guess then he thought it was a lion running around, which was, I think the ground sloth got up to be 7 meters tall, and that was about the size of his fossil that he had.
mean, it's, little did he know it had been, kind of extinct for a couple, millions of years. No big deal. But it just, it made me think he was kind of like that boyfriend that just couldn't let go. Like, he held on to this hope for so long that he was going to find this sloth. And it was like, he wrote about it. I feel like he obsessed over it to the point that his friends were probably like, dude, just let it go.
Calm
Move
calm
on.
down, man. Listen, TJ, you need to chill. You
They have
got
like an
all this
intervention.
other stuff.
They've got like all these like old founding fathers gathered around him. Listen, man, we got to have.
George is probably like, listen, Thomas, you get to be the third president. You get to do all this stuff.
You got
Just
to calm this down.
Chill with the sloth stuff.
Yeah. You're embarrassing yourself, man. Come on.
Right. Which leads me to believe, Austin, that Thomas Jefferson was the first American Bigfoot searcher.
Yes.
Because
I like that. I think he was.
I think that when it comes, and I've done just a little, I haven't done as much research into Bigfoot, but a lot of that, while a lot of cultures and societies have a lot of stories about wild men or men of the wild or very hairy, tall, large men, the Bigfoot originated with Native American tribes as the Sasquatch and spread from there. And so that makes sense because these tribes were there probably when this ground sloth was walking the earth. According to this research.
I like to imagine just when I was reading through all of this, and I'm picturing Jefferson like Rust in True Detective, Matthew McConaughey's character, in like a storage unit with pictures just strung up all over the wall of leads that he has. And he's like chain smoking cigarettes, like, I got it this time, man. Like, I got it. I found it. Like, he's like ready to like crack this case, like wide eyed, like hasn't slept in 4 days. That's what I picture with Thomas Jefferson, which I never before this really realized how into this he was and how invested he was. But now I can't see anything other than like the biggest conspiracy theorist. Like, he set that trend, I think. I agree with you. He really did. He paved the way for the rest of us.
Well, they're probably like, oh, dude, man, we're so happy you ended up getting the Constitutional Congress together and getting everybody settled and being the writer for that. It's like
he's like,
he was like, yeah, man, that's great, but sloths though.
But have you heard about the sloth? Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior? Like, he was like, I mean, he was on a mission to get people to believe him, and I would love to know what type of following he had on this. Like, if it was very, I feel like people probably just at that point assumed that he was losing his mind, probably. But
well, I think it's funny that he just wrote these like super duper like ethereal letters to John Adams.
John Adams' wife was probably like, John, we got another one from Thomas. He's talking about that damn sloth again. Like, just like John probably was like, oh yeah, just set it aside. He probably never read them.
DJ's smoking that MJ again up on Moncello.
He's back on his bullshit. But realistically, like, I mean, he seemed to be pretty serious about the sloth. So
he was. He loved being a part of the scientific community, and he had inventions just like Ben Franklin did. I recently found out he invented the swivel chair, which I'm sitting in a swivel chair. It also leans back a little bit, but mine at my desk at my workplace gives me a lot of back pain, so not necessarily a good thing, TJ, and maybe you should think of better inventions, which I'm sure he did. But to me, it seems like that this was the one thing, just like a lot of other people that have had sightings of Bigfoot, that they just can't escape.
Yeah.
And so it
Sticks with them.
It leads me to think that there, obviously, I think that they have been extinct, but just for the purpose of thought, what if they aren't? And what if these giant sloths, who are known to have made their living space within caves, what if they are still around?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thought.
And so
I don't know how scared I would be if I rolled up on a giant sloth, because typically I see them as these peaceful creatures that really don't care.
Well, they're herbivores.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, they're pretty chill, I feel like. It's still going to be a little unnerving rolling up on like a 12-foot sloth in the woods, but...
Yeah, and especially reading up on the human hunters of the sloth and looking at if you can go, I think it's the USA Today article that they wrote up. They had an artist, the depiction of these like 3 or 4 humans fighting this giant sloth, and it's like these humans fighting King Kong.
Like just, oh man. Yeah. I mean, I would say if you got something like 3 times your size, that's going to be kind of tough to bring down regardless of if it's very violent or not.
It's interesting to me what the Ice Age and what a lot of these displacement factors geologically have done to species. And so sloths are still around, but they're much smaller. You can go to most nice zoos and be able to see a sloth and a lemur and all kinds of different stuff. But a lot of, well, you've got the Galapagos, you've got these different like tiny horses, I think off the coast of Virginia or North Carolina. You've got these species that have evolved to their locations and are able to be bigger or smaller in these particular ways. And so with these giant sloths, I think that's where you're kind of getting a lot of this backstory with characters like King Kong, where you're talking about these different megafauna and this particular existence and them interacting with humans. Like there's got to be some truth to it, and it turns out that humans, while not fully developed, were coming in contact with these things.
Yeah, I mean, I always think about all of these conspiracy theories of these creatures and everything, and I mean, at some point, there had to be enough people seeing them to give them at least a little bit of validity here that they are still, you know what I mean? Like at some point, and it's hard to say because it seems like any visual evidence that we see is like some choppy cell phone video from across a field and you can't really see it. But at some point, there had to have been enough people seeing these things that have made it this huge folklore, like that it holds this much weight. You know what I mean? Like, so it makes you wonder, like, what really either is still out there, what was out there, what is in the hills.
I think there could be some truth to it. There's some stuff that I think is incredibly dumb, like and this is just my personal opinion, and I do not mean to judge anybody for anything that they do, but the Bigfoot calling, where people yell out of a microphone just these like obscene things. I tried to watch an episode of Finding Bigfoot before I recorded this, and I don't see how, if I was a giant ground sloth, that I would be like, I need to respond to
I'm going to go that way.
Like, I'm going to go that way. I want to go talk to these people.
They sound friendly.
I would go, I'm going back to my cave now. I will see you guys later.
Oh, yeah. And side note here, just off of what you were reading, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned how this sort of all ties in with Chief Cornstalk and Point Pleasant, because that's going to come back into play in another episode we do about West Virginia lore. So it's pretty cool to see how that can tie in with other
Seems like there's a lot of things that originate out of Point Pleasant.
Yeah, Point Pleasant's it's a pretty cool little place. There's a lot of history there that you wouldn't really know unless someone told you. It's kind of...
Some would say that there's an unexplained energy there.
Yeah, I guess with Cornstalk, when this whole slaughter went down and him and his son were killed, and they were trying to be the Americans' ally, there was a lot of people that speculate that on that day he placed a curse on the area. So that is a big thing about Point Pleasant and, the Silver Bridge collapse in the 1960s, I think. Yep. So that definitely, the area, very historic, and there's always, it seems like there's some sort of tie to Point Pleasant with a lot of history of the rest of West Virginia, folklore, battles, what have you. So that definitely later on, I think in later episodes will come into play again.
I wonder why it all kind of originated, like in that particular location. It's crazy to me how things spawn from different areas and come out and are part of our culture and our history. So with this and tying it into the new Fallout 76, obviously in Fallout 76 there are the enemy called Mega Sloth, which I think I saw a variation of a Mega Sloth in one of the previews, or I think in the documentary too. So if there are mega sloths in the game, if we're briefly looking at science or trying to understand it, that means that there more likely were some remnants of the mega sloth in the Fallout universe before the nuclear war.
Yeah.
Because sloths in general are native to North America, so there wouldn't be a mutation of any kind. It's possible that, while there probably was a little bit of mutation within the ground sloths themselves, then maybe it just made it a better environment for them to come out and be part of nature and interact with different things. Maybe with the absence of these people,
they felt
they were less scared.
We can live our lives now. I think that in one way you can look at it as, okay, hey, there were normal sized sloths, possibly mutation, whatever. But ultimately, I really do think, again, like we've said several times, Bethesda does their research. There is a reason there is a giant sloth in West Virginia. And it's not just because, there happened to be, because you don't see the sloths anywhere else in the Fallout world. To be fair, it's late. All the other games are much later, technically,
right,
chronologically, but there's a reason that these things are in West Virginia, and I think that they definitely did their homework on the history of this, like we just detailed. So I'm hoping there's a little more of an explanation from them too, possibly, as to how these things have become, I'm assuming there will be a decent amount of them that you can encounter.
And it's understandable if they take liberties with something, but I hope that there is some sort of explanation as to how specifically these ground sloths have come back.
Right.
And were they ever gone is the real question.
I'm sure that there will be some sort of cave system that you will have to explore, kind of like, was it the Yaogwai in Fallout 3 that you have? There's like a whole full cave system that they dwell in, sort of. I think that would be neat to see sort of a home base for these things, possibly, that a cave system, since, in real life, it seems like the fossils, a cave was kind of home base, it seems like. So I think that would be neat to go through. Maybe if they could have some sort of quest down there, that would be neat. But yeah, like you said, I hope an explanation, at least a little bit of a background, is given for people that, don't necessarily know these things and are not listening to our podcast, which shame on them for that. But
if they do, then they have that background and they know that the ground sloth lives. The other thing that I also wanted to talk about is that our state fossil, which is the Megalonyx jeffersoni, does not live in West Virginia. It is actually in Pennsylvania. So I wanted to start a social media campaign of hashtag that's my sloth. to bring the sloth fossil back to the West Virginia State History Museum down the block here.
Hashtag that's my sloth.
Hashtag that's my sloth.
I think we could pick up some traction with that.
I'm not quite sure. I know that it's in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure who has it in Pennsylvania, but I know who needs to have it.
It needs to be sitting right across the street right there.
It needs to be at the West Virginia State History Museum, along with several other wonderful artifacts and wax dummies.
Side note, did you know that in that museum right now, there are fleas that are dressed with actual clothes? You get a magnifying glass. I think it was from the early 1900s was when this originated. In that museum, they need a sloth next to them.
You need the dressed flea exhibit next to the Megalonyx Jeffersoni. And
the flea has a little tuxedo on.
Right. And I want a picture of the Fallout 76 sloth right beside the fossil. These are the things that I don't just want, I demand.
Right. These are the things that keep me up at night thinking about.
I worry about that fossil and whether or not it's being treated in the state. Excuse me. In the state, it should be in a state that it is not supposed to be.
Because that's my sloth. Hashtag that's my sloth.
That's my sloth. All right, Austin, let's move into our next segment here. So, Austin, what have you been playing this week? What have you been pressing the buttons for, moving a little mouse for, going around looking at the video screens doing?
Listen, it's new season of Fortnite. It's dropped.
Season 5.
Season 5 dropped. I'm still garbage at the game, but it's so addicting. And I hate it because when the game was first getting popular, I was one of those guys that was like, this game looks stupid. I'm not going to play this game. The other night I was playing it and I didn't realize it, and it was like 1:30 in the morning.
Goodness.
I was like, I got to work, in like 6.5, 7 hours. So time can really slip away from you when you're playing that game. So other than that, I've been basically getting beat consistently on that.
I think it's a really brilliant modern game because the best part about it is it's free. You can just own a computer or a Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, a Switch, now an iPhone, and play this game anytime that you want.
And this is what's insane to me. I don't know if this is a true number or how accurate this is. I would imagine it's pretty accurate. I read the other day that they have made over $300 million just off of people buying the add-on stuff for the game.
That's crazy, man.
I think that they get people in this mindset of, this game's free, blah, blah, blah. Even if I buy a few things, I'm still spending less than what I would be if I bought a full game. And when I first started playing it, I was like, this is fun, but how long will this trend last? And it's so cool because I feel like every few weeks they're adding more stuff to the game. They're taking stuff out. They're keeping it fresh so that people are still wanting to come back to it. And I think that's what makes it cool. I think that they're really kind of, obviously they've taken some things from other game and other developers, but I think that they're also paving the way even more for other games and kind of how it's moving forward in the future.
They're games as a service, as we do a podcast about a future games as a service game. I think that Fortnite are one of the modern examples of people who have somewhat figured it out with their content and their marketing and what they microtransaction stuff for.
I mean, they've just been, even with the new season, like in the weeks leading up to a new season, they always start changing things every day that makes people say, oh, what are they doing there? Like, what is this kind of hinting at? And I know going from season 4 to 5, they had portals popping up throughout the game. And then there was like a burger on top of one of the buildings, like a burger shack, and it disappeared through a portal. And then in real life, I think out in California somewhere, they had a real life version of that just randomly appear in the middle of the desert.
That's nuts.
So that got people talking. Okay,
augmented
what are they doing
reality.
Now? Llamas from the game started popping up all over the world in random cities, like replicas of the llamas. So they started kind of making people, Twitter blew up. So that got, that's perfect marketing right there.
Their marketing machine is insane.
Yes. So then they have these little promo videos, and everything was kind of transported from their world to our world and back from our world to their world. So that really got people talking. And I've been thoroughly impressed because I think a lot of kids play the game as the way I came into it. Like, oh, this is a kid game. And then I realized, like, this is an everyone game. Like, anybody can get into this game.
Anybody can get into the game, and it's great because the game across you can play it on any device.
Yeah.
Outside of Android phones, you can play it on.
Yeah. I mean, other than PS4 to Xbox, and we've talked about the cross-platform thing.
They're taking the Todd Howard Skyrim mentality and put it on everything.
It's pretty sweet. Which I still want to try the whole Amazon Echo.
Oh, yeah, I don't trust an Amazon Echo, but that does sound pretty interesting. I do not trust that one bit.
I thought it was a joke, and then
apparently it's real. Yeah,
I saw people actually playing it, and that blows my mind. So,
playing anything else other than Fortnite?
Doing typical Fallout, bouncing back and forth between Fallout 3, Fallout 4.
How's that going?
It's going well. I guess on 3 I've made it to. I'm going to retrieve the dish for 3 Dog right now.
Bow wow.
Bow wow. Yeah, I'm going to get the dish for him. I'm rocking a hunting rifle and a 10mm pistol right now because I haven't really done. Typically, when I do Fallout, I'll do other things before I do the quests. But I'm trying to refresh myself on everything, so I've been sticking more closely to the quest. So I haven't really like gone off, the beaten path here and like search stuff and gotten weapons. I'm gonna have to do that because I'm really struggling with some of these. Like there was several super mutants I ran into, and it was not easy with a 10mm pistol and a baseball bat and a hunting rifle to take all of them out when I'm limited on ammo. So I had to put the game down the other night because I got a little frustrated. But
you got to do some more exploring, get some more stuff.
Yeah, that wasn't my greatest idea, just running right into it with that. But it's amazing to me how, compared to now, the graphics on Fallout 3 are not really great, but just how fun it still is.
Right.
I think
that's the way I feel about Oblivion.
It does all of the right things that sort of distract you from the fact that the graphics are very dated, which at the time, I mean, they weren't terrible. They were pretty good at the time. But going now and like you and I playing God of War, we're a little spoiled with graphics now, like the way that some of these games have become.
Right.
It's much more cinematic now. So going back to that, I was very surprised how I didn't really notice it. It just sort of was still just as fun as it was the first time I played it. So that was cool.
That's good.
So that's what I'm very, very excited to see what Bethesda does with the landscape of West Virginia. I think that it's just the visuals are going to be insane.
I'm excited. I'm going to turn it into you and be like a West Virginia photographer for that.
See, that's what I'm excited about. I think that it's going to make people want to come here and see the landscapes that we have,
right,
and the overlooks and just any scenic opportunity that you have, because it looked like even in a post-apocalyptic world, it was looking all right in a lot of places. So
we looking okay.
We're looking okay. I think that it'll make people want to come here a little more, and there's so many vacation opportunities here that people don't realize. You can play Fallout 76. Come to West Virginia for a weekend. Go to the real life places, right, and enjoy it. I mean, there's so much you can do.
And just a pro tip: Camden Park is not Disney World, so don't expect that.
But the Big Dipper somehow still running. I don't know,
right?
But shout out to them for keeping that going.
Any day. So you've been playing some Fallout 4 too?
A little Fallout 4,
just kind of getting your feet wet.
Fallout 4, just more so, just kind of mucking around and
just kind of refamiliarizing yourself. I understand.
I'm really I'm like a junkie right now. Like I need my Fallout fix.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm just like itching for this new game. So any way I can get it at this point,
So I've been playing Fallout 4 as well, and I've been doing the Minutemen stuff. And so now I've gotten a good amount of the settlements. I don't have all of them. But I've been trying to go back and get that really heavy combat armor that you can get later on. And most of the people that have that are the gunners in Fallout 4. So I took my trip to Quincy Ruins, which is like where all the gunners are. That's in the south of the map. and took Preston Garvey with me, and we went down there and met up with his old comrade as I forgot his name, but he wears the power armor and he's got the Minutemen hat, and he's like the Darth Vader of the Minutemen, and turn to the dark side, and you got to go over there and get him. But through doing all that and getting all these settlements, it's really particularly makes me not dislike, but makes me a little bit frustrated with one of the other characters in my party. Mm-hmm. So when I'm with Preston Garvey, who just, is really nice, pure soul, salt of the earth kind of dude.
Right.
Anytime I'm in the town, everybody goes up to him and thanks him for all of the great work that the Minutemen are doing. And let me tell you something. Preston Garvey's not doing jack with a laser musket. Preston Garvey's just telling me to go do all the things. He's right. He's just the, he's not the mission. He's the Alec Baldwin of the Mission Impossible world.
I was never a big fan of old Preston. I got to be honest with you.
I think he's a good dude, but here's the thing is all of the glory is falling upon him whenever I have him around, and people are giving him presents in his inventory. So every so often I have to go into his inventory and fish out all the stuff that's good that these people have gotten him.
You just got to stop doing stuff for these ungrateful.
I'm going to keep on doing it, but I don't know if Preston's going to stick around for that much longer, because this guy is showing me up in every level, and I'm out here,
He's got to go, man.
I'm telling you what, it's like my supervisor's taking over my work, and I don't particularly like it one bit. But with that, I will say, as I've mentioned before, I'm doing a melee-based role. And honestly, my favorite weapon, I thought it was going to be the super sledge. Mm-hmm. It's actually the Ripper. Ooh. The Ripper is great, and it's probably one of my favorite weapons.
It's a wild card.
In 4. Because there's no... You can't get stun locked that easily with it. So, like, if they hit you, you're not going to fall back with it. Because once you get them going, you can stun lock every single person.
Yeah.
So it's great for any animals, any ghouls, and any low-level players. Like not players. Any, like, low-level characters that you're fighting. Yeah. You just get your Ripper out, and you sit there and you saw through it for however long you need to. For your... crazier enemies, you probably need to break out something a little bit different. But the Ripper really has gotten me covered across the whole game. And it's not, it's just the extended Ripper. That's all it is. It's just that upgraded one. And that's all it really does. And it's probably my favorite weapon in this playthrough, which I have never really appreciated in a particular manner. But I really like it. So you had mentioned... 3 Dog, talking about Bow Wow Wow. 3 Dog coming at you from Galaxy News Radio.
You practiced that today, didn't you?
No, I didn't. This is probably terrible. I'm not even sure. I don't have my headphones on. But, so I've been playing Fallout Shelter.
Okay.
On the Android, which is a free Android iPhone game where you are kind of a manager of a vault. And you have different... people that come and live in your vault. You set them up with different jobs and do different quests, do a bunch of stuff. I really like it as a mobile game.
I always ended up forgetting about it, and then...
I probably play it for a good 10 minutes every day just to kind of check in, see how everything's going, and build the empire as you know it. But with you get these lunch boxes, and they have they're kind of like loot boxes for the game, kind of, and they have different cards that give you different things. And so I've gotten really lucky with 2 of my cards, and I have gotten 2 3 Dogs in the game, which they have special vault dwellers that you can get from the different series. And so I have 2 3 Dogs. Now, 3 Dog has a high charisma skill, which is part of the special, which we've talked about in episode 1. In the game, there's special stats for all the different dwellers that you have. He has a high charisma skill. Now, what you can do with that, you can put him in a radio broadcasting station, but you can also put him in a living room and have him mate with the other dwellers that you have there. And I've put 2 3 Dogs in a living room, and then have continually, since he has a very high charisma that attributes to the characters that you get out of it and how fast they generate from that room. So I now have 101 dwellers, and I have about like 25 sons and daughters of 3 dog.
Dude's getting around,
there's like
man.
Frank dog, Mark dog, Joan dog. It's
4
the dog
dogs.
family. And I like to think to myself, every time they go out into the wasteland to do a quest of like 2 or 3 of them, I always think to myself, who let the dogs out?
Oh my God. You're such a dad. That was like the worst dad joke imaginable.
So I've been playing a little bit of that. I also I watched the Tomb Raider movie this past weekend.
Shout out Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, well, no, not that Tomb
The
Raider.
new one?
The new one.
Forgot there was a new one.
It was for rent. It has forgot her name. I really like her. And I completely forgot her name, but it's actually not bad, and it's pretty good. I like the villain.
I completely forgot that they had shot a new one.
Yeah, it's kind of loosely based off of the game that the reboot that they had originally put out.
I was going to say, isn't there like a new one coming out?
There's
too?
the third of the reboots is coming out. I think in September, October, November, sometime around there, where I'm too busy between Spider-Man, Red Dead, and Fallout.
There's no time
to play it. But
there's literally no time.
But I've been replaying the old Tomb Raider. The original reboot.
Yeah.
And then I've been playing Uncharted Golden Abyss on the PlayStation Vita. I've never played that. Have played all of the other Uncharted except for the Vita version.
I never got into Uncharted. I have them. For some reason, I just never... It wasn't that I didn't like it. I just never consistently could play it. I don't know what it was about that game. I think that it was because I got The Last of Us around the same time. So I spent way more time with it. And then
I like Uncharted way better than Last of Us.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The story in The Last of Us is great, and it's very emotional and moving, and there's a lot of... it's really a hallmark for cinematic experiences within a game, but I like Uncharted better because I love Indiana Jones. It's one of my favorite film series of all time. So I've been playing that, and I've been playing a little bit of Prey Mooncrash, which is the new DLC for Prey that they have put out. That's kind of like... experience where you have a certain set of people stranded on this moon base, and so there's like an engineer and a janitor and a like psychoactive experiment prisoner, and they all have different powers and different things, and you're trying to get them to escape the moon base. So with their particular expertise and with the levels changing all the time, it makes it for a pretty replayable experience. So it's been fun to play.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm actually excited for is the new update for No Man's Sky. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
So No Man's Sky was a game that came out in 2015, and I actually really loved it. I have 5 platinums on my PlayStation account. This is my shining crown of achievements. Forget my degrees.
Real dedication.
Real dedication. The first platinum that I ever got was Life is Strange, and I didn't get that platinum. It was my wife playing on my profile. The next was Fallout 4. The next was the Batman Telltale game series, which you automatically get the platinum if you finish all the episodes. And Skyrim and No Man's Sky, which is essentially a procedurally generated universe in which you can go to any of the planets, like across this gigantic universe, fly in your ship. It's a kind of a survival game, kind of an exploration game. It came out, and the marketing was so big behind it, and they promised so many things, it didn't deliver.
Yeah,
But
I remember this now.
I liked it fine, and I liked the game, was having a good time. But all the updates that they've done since then have really improved it. And
Is it on? It's probably cheaper on the marketplace.
It's like
right now,
$20, I think.
I might have to check that out because I remember when that came out, and I'll have to check that out.
And so there's a new update coming out that's on July 24th, where they're adding in it's mainly in third person, but they're adding in, mainly in first person, but they're adding in a third person mode. And so when I fly a ship, I like to fly my ships like that old Star Wars game?
Solo?
No, like the old Star Wars game on the GameCube that had the X-wing fighters. Rogue One, Rogue Legacy, Rogue.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Rebel something.
If you wouldn't have asked me, I could have named this for you.
And so I like to fly them, like Star Fox,
Yeah.
and like have that. The cockpit view is fine, but I kind of like that third person initiative. And so they're adding that. Also, you're able to play multiplayer with people on it, which is the first for that game.
Definitely have to get it then. We can.
You can get together with other people. You can customize your character, and you can go and explore, be a space pirate, get a freight, do whatever.
Space pirate. That sounds pretty cool.
Do whatever you want, and but till Starfield comes out, this is going to be my Han Solo sim.
There you go.
So that is essentially all I've been playing here recently.
I feel it, man.
I like it.
I feel it.
That's it for today. Don't forget to email us your questions at vaultboyswv@gmail.com. vaultboyswv@gmail.com. Check us out on all social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I just did a Periscope video.
We have joined 2018 officially.
We are here. We are #blessed right now at vaultboyswv. But for now, the vault door is closing. Stay safe.